Australia has spent over $50 million over nearly a century just to control the cane toad, a toxic amphibian capable of killing predators after a single attack. From just a few thousand individuals introduced in 1935, cane toads have exploded to a population of more than 200 million, spreading across 1.2 million square kilometers and causing $200 to $300 million in damage each year. In response, every possible solution, from manual trapping and biological barriers to large-scale eradication campaigns, has been deployed, yet all have failed against the species' rapid reproduction and nearly uncontrollable adaptability. And then, something no one expected happened. Ants, an invasive species in the southern United States, unexpectedly became a savior, killing cane toads right as they emerged from the water. Why can these tiny ants accomplish what an entire nation could not? Today, let's join Terran Works to find the answer. The cane toad is originally native to Central and South America. In its homeland, it is just a normal link in a complex food chain tightly kept in check by natural predators such as caiman crocodiles and toxin-resistant snakes. However, everything changed when humans began to see this amphibian as a cheap and miraculous biological weapon to protect crops from pests. Before arriving in Australia, cane toads were introduced to Hawaii in 1932 to combat beetles that were destroying sugarcane fields. Early reports of success on the island, though never rigorously verified with scientific data, created a wave of blind optimism among Australian agricultural scientists. At the time, they were in a state of desperation, as Queensland's vital sugar industry faced collapse due to severe pest infestations. In August 1935, ignoring weak warnings about ecological risks, the first 102 cane toads were officially imported from Hawaii and released into the fields of northern Queensland. The goal was clear: eliminate the greyback cane beetle, which was damaging sugarcane roots. However, a fatal misunderstanding of biological behavior was carelessly overlooked. While the beetles typically lived and bred high up on the sugarcane stalks, far out of reach, the cane toads were clumsy, ground-based predators. As a result, the two species almost never encountered each other in the battle humans had carefully arranged. The failure to eliminate the pests did not mean failure for the toads. On the contrary, the complete absence of natural predators in Australia turned the new land into an unlimited paradise. From just 102 individuals, they rapidly established a vast population with explosive reproductive capacity. They began expanding at an astonishing rate of up to 50 kilometers per year, turning what was meant to save agriculture into one of the most devastating and irreversible ecological nightmares in Australia's history. To understand why the cane toad is considered an ecological disaster in Australia, we first need to look at its biology. Its most distinctive trait, and also its most terrifying weapon, is an powerful chemical defense system. Just behind its eyes, the cane toad possesses two massive parotoid glands that contain a complex toxin known as bufotoxin. When attacked or threatened, the toad contracts the muscles around these glands, spraying a milky white secretion directly at its enemy. These bufogenins are steroids structurally similar to digoxin, a cardiac drug derived from the foxglove plant. Once inside a predator's body, through ingestion or contact with the mouth or eyes, bufogenins immediately target a critical biological component on cell membranes, especially in heart muscle cells. The result is severe cardiac disruption, irregular heartbeats, violent fibrillation, leading to cardiac arrest and death from acute heart failure within minutes. For most native Australian vertebrates, such as snakes, lizards, and even Nile crocodiles, their physiology has no natural defense against bufotoxin. As a result, any attempt to prey on a cane toad often becomes a swift death sentence. Because of two key mechanisms, direct poisoning and resource competition, cane toads have caused devastating impacts. Species such as quolls, carnivorous marsupials, goannas, monitor lizards, and native venomous snakes were among the first victims. Having never encountered bufotoxin over millions of years of evolution, they lack any instinct to avoid it. Just a single bite on a cane toad can lead to almost immediate death for these predators. Cane toads are also extremely voracious. They consume vast amounts of insects, crustaceans, and even smaller frogs. Their tadpoles are equally aggressive. They hatch quickly and feed on the eggs and larvae of native frog species, pushing many Australian frogs toward endangerment. Beyond ecological damage, cane toads also impact the economy, particularly the livestock industry, a cornerstone of northern Australia. While they do not attack cattle directly, they devastate dung beetle populations. These insects act as free sanitation workers on farms, burying livestock waste into the soil, naturally fertilizing it, and preventing the spread of disease-carrying buffalo flies. When cane toads invade, they consume dung beetles in large numbers. As a result, livestock waste accumulates on pastures, killing grass and turning farms into breeding grounds for disease. Farmers are now forced to spend millions of dollars each year on veterinary treatments and chemical fertilizers to replace the natural services once provided by dung beetles. Faced with increasingly severe damage to both ecosystems and the livestock industry, where millions of dollars each year are effectively burned to replace the free services once provided by dung beetles, Australia entered a true race for survival. Research programs were accelerated, with massive budgets poured into laboratories in search of a silver bullet to eliminate cane toads. The government launched large-scale chemical spraying campaigns, using highly toxic compounds to target cane toads at their earliest stages, eggs and tadpoles in wetlands. On farms, residents were mobilized to use the strongest available household chemicals to spray directly into burrows, or even to spread highly toxic bait traps across vast grasslands. However, these brute force efforts produced a devastating side effect. Chemical pollution inadvertently wiped out large numbers of native amphibians and beneficial insects, while the cane toads, with their natural toxin resistance, continued to move forward undeterred. Even the most ambitious and controversial ideas, such as genetic engineering to create a gene-drive extinction technology, were considered. Yet despite all these efforts, cane toads kept spreading, continuing to expand at an astonishing rate of 50 kilometers per year, as if no man-made barrier could stop them. Amid this sense of deadlock and despair, a strange glimmer of hope emerged from chance observations in the field. In the sweltering areas around ponds, where millions of young toads had just undergone metamorphosis and left the water, researchers recorded a remarkable phenomenon. Armies of native ants were carrying out large-scale executions of cane toads. Without the need for aerial spraying or million-dollar laboratories, these tiny warriors were doing what humans had failed to achieve for nearly a century. That moment not only introduced a new method of solving the problem, but also raised a question that forced scientists to re-examine their entire previous approach. How could a tiny insect accomplish something that numerous costly, high-tech human solutions could not? Perhaps the greatest mistake humans have made in the battle against cane toads is not simply choosing the wrong tools, but inconsistently trying to deal with the consequences after the disaster has already erupted, instead of stopping it at the weakest links in its life cycle. Most previous campaigns have targeted adult toads, the stage that is most visible, most alarming, and most likely to convince the public that authorities are taking action. Yet from an ecological perspective, this is actually the hardest stage to control. By the time a toad reaches adulthood, it is not only larger, stronger, and more toxic, but also capable of dispersing over vast areas, hiding in a wide range of environments, and continuing to reproduce before being detected. As a result, efforts to eliminate them at this late stage are almost always slower than the species' own rate of spread. Another mistake lies in humanity's tendency to think in linear terms. When faced with a harmful species, we try to remove it directly. But ecosystems do not operate in straight lines. They are complex networks of timing, environment, behavior, and interactions among multiple species. If we fail to strike at the moment when cane toads are weakest, most isolated, and most dependent on their surroundings, then even the most expensive measures amount to little more than patching a hole in a sinking ship. The turning point only came when scientists stopped viewing cane toads as a target to chase, and instead began to see their entire life cycle as a system with critical breaking points. So why is the cane toad's highly destructive toxin completely harmless to ants' nervous systems? Ants have a tough chitin exoskeleton that not only acts as a physical armor against external forces, but is also coated with natural antibiotics they secrete themselves, helping the colony maintain a collective immune system against fungi and bacteria. As each ant moves, it leaves behind a chemical trail, forming a natural digital map that allows the colony to coordinate resources, identify targets, and signal danger instantly without any central command. In addition, the hunting strategy of these meat ants is highly intelligent. Rather than launching a reckless frontal assault, the colony operates using a spiral encirclement tactic. Their attacks are not random across all fronts, but are precisely timed to target cane toads immediately after metamorphosis. When millions of tadpoles shed their tails and emerge onto land as young toads, they are at their most vulnerable state. Only the size of a pea, with thin skin that has not yet accumulated high levels of toxin and still lacking strong mobility, they become ideal targets. The ants coordinate their attack using powerful mandibles, combined with the ability to spray formic acid directly into open wounds. This acid causes extreme pain, breaks down protein bonds, triggers shock, and paralyzes the peripheral nervous system, turning the cane toad's instinct of remaining still and waiting for its toxin to take effect into a slow and brutal death sentence. It was through understanding this mechanism that scientists began to reconsider the role of ants, not as a random phenomenon, but as a highly promising biological tool. From there, an entirely new strategy emerged. At the University of Sydney, under the leadership of Professor Rick Shine, researchers developed a seemingly simple yet highly sophisticated solution, using the ants' own predatory instincts to create a natural control network. Instead of developing more chemicals or introducing another invasive species, they leveraged a very ordinary element, high-protein cat food, as a trigger to activate the existing predatory system in nature. By placing these bait stations along floodplains and pond edges, where millions of cane toad tadpoles were about to complete metamorphosis and move onto land, humans unintentionally created a magnet that drew vast armies of meat ants to strategic locations. This intervention was not about altering nature, but rather intelligently guiding it, optimizing the power of the native antibody already present in the ecosystem. Each piece of bait became a supply station, anchoring the ant armies in the field at the most critical stage of the cane toad's life cycle. The superiority of this biological trap method does not lie in completely eradicating cane toads, but in its ability to precisely target the most vulnerable stage of their life cycle. Experimental data shows that in areas with high ant density, more than 50% of young toads are killed within minutes, and up to 80 to 100% fail to survive beyond 24 hours. This effectively wipes out an entire generation right after they leave the water. In natural conditions, only about 1 to 5% of young toads survive to adulthood. Under ant pressure, however, this survival rate drops to nearly zero in many test areas, with each reproductive cycle producing tens of thousands of individuals. Reducing 90 to 99% of them early on has a massive population-level impact, significantly slowing the explosive spread of this invasive species. However, this is not a total eradication solution. Cane toads still exist and continue to spread. Today, the fight against cane toads no longer takes place only in muddy wetlands, but also in the realm of space and algorithms. Researchers are using thermal sensing drones combined with AI to scan vast areas. The AI is trained to recognize the shape and distinctive calls of cane toads among thousands of native frog species. When an invasion hotspot is detected, the system can automatically activate sound stations that mimic mating calls to lure the toads into traps, or alert volunteer teams with precise coordinates. This represents a fusion of silicon power and biological instinct, a digital tracking system that optimizes resources while minimizing harm to the environment. While meat ants in Australia are becoming a biological shield that helps control cane toads, on the other side of the world, another ant species has been spreading fear on a national scale. The red imported fire ant entered Mobile, Alabama in the 1930s via cargo ships from South America and has since made the United States its second home, causing up to $6 billion in economic damage each year. Beyond their painful, sometimes life-threatening stings, these insects have a strange trait. They are electricity addicts. They invade and damage substations and traffic signal systems, causing large-scale short circuits. Even more alarming, images of billions of ants forming massive living rafts drifting during floods in Texas have become a terrifying sight for local communities. To combat them, Americans have launched a costly all-out war. In the skies, fleets of helicopters carry out repeated aerial attacks, using biological baits containing sterilizing agents to eliminate the reproductive capacity of queen ants in supercolonies. On the ground, high-pressure chemicals are injected deep into nests as part of ongoing efforts to protect homes. More remarkably, scientists have even turned to a biological weapon from the fire ant's native habitat, the phorid fly. These tiny flies carry out a gruesome process by laying eggs in the ant's head, where the larvae hatch and eventually cause the host's head to detach from the inside, helping suppress the ant population. From an ecological perspective, this stark contrast is a clear example of the theory of context dependence. With the same aggressive genetic makeup, fire ants act as disruptive agents in North America, damaging infrastructure and biodiversity, while in Australia, ants become an unintended biological control mechanism, directly limiting the spread of cane toads. The role reversal between invasive species and natural predators is not limited to the story of ants. Before meat ants became a natural antibody in Australia, the world had already witnessed another savior from this very continent, the Vedalia ladybird, the nemesis of the mealybug disaster in the United States. In the 1880s, citrus plantations in California faced a devastating crisis caused by the cottony cushion scale Acaria purchases. This pest, originally from Australia, had invaded the United States and caused such severe destruction that farmers were driven to despair, cutting down thousands of acres of trees. Entomologist Albert Coble set out for Australia in search of the pest's natural enemy. There, he discovered the Vedalia ladybird, a small beetle with a distinctive orange-red body and black spots, possessing an intense appetite specifically for scale insects. The introduction of 514 Vedalia beetles into California in 1888 led to a remarkable turnaround. Within just 1 year, the scale insect population was wiped out, saving the livelihoods of thousands of farmers and laying the foundation for the use of natural predators in sustainable agriculture. To this day, the Vedalia ladybird remains present in California as a silent biological guardian, keeping scale insect populations below damaging levels without the need for chemical intervention. Nearly a century after the mistake of 1935, the cane toad remains one of the greatest ecological disasters in Australia. But instead of complex solutions, nature itself has pointed to a simpler path, leveraging existing predators to slow its explosive spread. Meat ants may not be able to completely eliminate cane toads, but this approach helps reduce pressure on ecosystems and offers a new perspective on controlling invasive species. Do you think this is the right direction? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to like and subscribe to Terran Works to follow more fascinating stories.